just reacting a 3 series 2 Mansion Auto Service by Miso Namo. A link to the video will be in the description below. Go and check it. So let's get into this reaction.
There's this abandoned mansion in Toronto that came up in a group chat among my friends. We saw pictures of it through a mutual friend who had recently gone to explore there. It looked immaculate based on the pictures, and we were intrigued to go check it out. It was 10 miles north from us, so the drive wasn't bad. The mansion sat on a big open grass plain, with pine trees and other foliage surrounding the perimeter of the property,
That
acting
looks
as a
nice.
natural fence or just a wall of privacy from the outside. My friends, who I'll call Chad and Brad for this story, followed close behind me as I led the way up the large gravel driveway towards the front of the unfinished house. By the looks of it, construction on the structure had been abandoned when it was near completion, as the outside foundation seemed to be finished.
What?
Our mutual friend who found out about the place had told us that he hopped through a back window that was left unlocked, so that's what we looked for. The unlocked window turned out to be in the kitchen, right over the counter, so one at a time we squeezed through the window, crawling onto the counter and then down to the ground. First impressions in the kitchen, almost immaculate, minus a few of the cabinet doors sprawled out on the floor as
It
if
looks.
they had yet to be installed.
The place
There
looks
was
nice.
sheetrock boards laying around, but everything seemed new.
Yeah.
It's a shame the construction was abandoned.
Yeah. Why the
The three of us
construction
kind of
was
went our own
abandoned?
directions in the house. I went towards the living room, which again was almost pristine. It was a huge room that transitioned into the dining room, and then from there, a wide hallway with at least 10 different doors. My friends were already checking out some of the rooms in this hallway. I peeped into each room and realized most of them were bedrooms. At the end of the hall was a 3-door garage.
We do
Last
go.
door in the
Oh.
hall before the garage was the basement. I called to Brad and Chad that I was checking out the basement.
Yeah.
I got an acknowledgement from at least one of them. The basement had this bizarre spiral staircase, so when I got to the bottom, I couldn't even see the door at the top.
What?
There were no windows down there.
The windows.
Besides my flashlight, it was pitch black. It was a completely unfinished basement. Pieces of drywall everywhere, unfinished wood foundation where
Then
walls should be.
that's not
The
good.
basement was huge. Like there were multiple sections down there. It was big enough to fit a basketball court and more.
A basketball.
Then I came across
Wow,
this
that's
back
big.
room with a few storage containers. I was here to explore after all, so I curiously started lifting the lids off the containers. The first two seemed to contain building tools and supplies like wood planks. But then I heard something from one of the other containers. It was like something caused the container to make a bump sound.
What?
Could it be an animal?
Animal making that kind of thing.
To the container and noticed the lid
No.
was not sealed on this one, as it wasn't
I
sealed
don't
perfectly
yeah,
snug
animal.
on the top. As I bent over to try and lift the lid,
No.
it lifted without me touching it.
What the?
I heard a whispering noise. I fell backwards on my hands as this happened.
Oh,
While I
no.
was on the ground, I
Oh,
saw a
no.
smiling woman looking at me. The only thing lifting
Oh,
the
no.
container up was her head.
What the?
She looked at me, laughed, and said peekaboo. And she
Oh.
I ran to the top of the stairs, but the basement door was now locked. I banged on it for my friends to open it up, but they were apparently messing with me. I heard creaks on the spiral staircase below me. I couldn't see her yet, but I could hear her laughing getting closer. She was mumbling
Oh, no.
incomprehensible things.
I'll be put the door down in the demons up after. Yeah.
I ran out and looked back for half a second, greeted by this ghostly, skinny figure of this pale woman looking up at me, almost at the top step. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Chad saw the woman too, and we bolted for the front door.
Yeah. I will do that something.
The three of us got to the edge of the property to talk. After an hour of just sitting in my car thinking and talking, I agreed to go back inside and unlock the basement door. As scary as what I witnessed was, I didn't want to be responsible for someone dying down there. But when we got back inside, the basement door was wide open.
What?
I promise you, we locked that door.
Yeah, you did.
No sense.
No,
Once
no.
again, bolted back outside towards the car and drove home to never return to that mansion again.
I will do that something. I'll be the first one out of that.
When I was a very young kid, we lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. Lots of space between each house. All the houses on our street were very nice, but there was one abnormally large house. It was closer to a mansion. It sat right across the street from us. My bedroom window could look across to the windows of the mansion. Since our street was incredibly low traffic, our parents let us play soccer in the street. So my two friends, Brian and Zeke, were playing soccer one sunny day. It was usually just the three of us, so we had this kind of free-for-all version of soccer that we made up. Eventually the ball was kicked onto the property of the mansion, so I ran over to get it. When I picked up the ball, I looked at all the windows to see if the house owner was possibly witnessing me on his property. But at one of the top windows was a young boy who looked to be about our age. I hurried off the property and back to my friends. I asked them if they had ever seen the kid who lives in that mansion. They hadn't. The second
What
time
the?
I looked back at the window, the boy was no longer there.
What the?
It wasn't for a while after that, probably a month, that I was in my room playing Nintendo. And for whatever reason, I got up to get something, and I looked out my window across to the mansion, and I saw that boy at the window again. He was surely looking at me, all the way from across the street.
Oh,
Freaked me
no.
out.
Yeah.
I walked away from the window to
He
ignore
will
it.
think me out too. Yeah.
Hadn't I ever seen that kid outside before? Come to think of it, why hadn't I ever really seen the owners of that house? I asked my parents about the boy across the street. They said they were pretty sure there was no boy in that house.
What the?
So the
No,
next
Bobby.
time Brian, Zeke,
You know?
and I were playing in the street,
Oh no.
thinking of potential fourth players to have a real game, I had an idea. I ran to the front door of that mansion and rang the bell. A 50-something-year-old woman answered. I asked if her son wanted to play soccer with us. She looked at me puzzled and said, "What son?" I replied, "The boy who was always at the upstairs window." I can't describe the look on her face besides shock and fear. She asked me what the boy looked like, and after my best description, a tear rolled down her cheek, and she put her hands over her mouth. She brought me upstairs to the room where I kept seeing the boy. It was a boy's bedroom. She showed me a picture of a kid, and asked me if this was the boy I was seeing. I said yes. She told me that was her 8-year-old son, Charlie, who died 10 years ago.
He died.
That woman living there had been alone ever since she lost her son and husband.
Oh no.
She believed what I said because I nor my parents would have ever had any way of
He's a
knowing about
ghost.
her son. She didn't tell
It's a
me or
ghost
my
on.
parents what happened to her husband or son. As sad as this all was, it was still horrifying.
Yeah.
There was one other time I saw the boy. I was in my room, months later, and I looked out my window to the woman's mansion across the street. There he was again, at the upstairs window. I could tell he was looking at me. I shut my blind with force and tried to forget about it. It still sends shivers up my spine when I think back on it.
He will give me shit, but I'm the spawn too. So, yeah, that's creepy. Yeah.
I was once hired to house sit for a friend of the family friend who was going away for a week.
Oh, that's a
In this case, I
nice
could
place.
call it mansion sit because the family was absolutely loaded.
Imagine
The
the
mansion sat on the
YouTube
beach side of
videos I can make them.
huge lake.
It will be
And
lit.
it
Yep.
just seemed like a cool job to have for a week. The family's one rule was to throw no parties and no more than 2 guests at any time, which even that I thought was generous of them. The father's name was Benjamin, and that's the only name you'll need to know. Ben left me a list of things to keep track of every night.
Wow,
which
that's
included
nice.
feeding the
Wow.
2 cats and 2 parrots, watering the
2
plants,
singing leaves.
among other things that really
One, two.
won't contribute to the story.
Wow,
The
it's
house was a
beautiful
half hour
place.
from home, so instead of just driving there and back,
I can see me
I
living up.
opted to just sleep in one of the guest bedrooms, which they offered to me after all. The first day there, I got there very late,
Wow,
so it was a short one
Yeah,
that
nice
got me
place.
kind of
Wow.
warmed up for what to expect the week
look at
ahead.
this.
After doing the
big.
insignificant amount of morning chores, I hopped in the pool they had in the backyard. The pool literally overlooked a gorgeous, tranquil lake, and even with the thought of getting to enjoy this unbelievable house for a week, I was still incredibly jealous. As I was in the
I will be jealous
looking
too.
through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows to the living room, somebody walking inside.
What?
I jumped out from the pool, freaking out.
I will
To
freak
grab
out
a
too.
towel and dry myself for a second before storming inside, yelling, "Excuse me." I didn't see anyone in the living room, so I entered the kitchen, and there was a fairly large Hispanic woman who looked to be about 35 to 40. She was just standing there as if waiting for me.
What?
I asked her who she was and why she was here while trying to keep myself composed and confident. She said in a thick accent that she was the maid who came every day to clean the floors and stuff.
What
She
the?
introduced herself as Eliza. I
Eliza.
instantly felt a sense of relief and introduced myself as Mike, the guy who was house sitting for the week. She spoke in as little words as possible. I don't think her English was too good, but she basically said she was going to clean the floors in the kitchen and living room now. I said that was completely fine and let her do her thing. I asked her how she got in the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So that was that. I went back out to the pool for a little
Something
longer to
fishy
let
about
everything cool.
the woman.
When I got out from the pool, I dried up
I
and took
don't
a
like it
shower.
one bit.
After my shower, I fed the animals again. The parrots were easier than the cats, surprisingly.
Really?
I didn't see the maid again, but I didn't really want to get in her way and have awkward small talk with someone who could barely speak English anyway.
Yeah.
I had a couple friends over
I'm the
that
same
day
way too.
because everyone was eager to see the place, but I respected their rules of only 2 guests at a time. I gave them the best tour I could. Then we kind of just chilled in the game room they had, played some air hockey and pool table, and drank a little bit. When I told my friends about the cleaning lady scaring the hell out of me, they both sounded insanely suspicious. Like, why wouldn't Ben have told me about the cleaning lady?
Oh yeah.
They brought up
Why
other
didn't
things,
why
so
didn't
I
Ben
shot Ben a
told
text,
him that
asking
you are
about
a
the
clean
cleaning
lady?
He didn't answer right
You
away.
you
I
is
didn't want to call him.
suspicious.
My friends wanted to sleep over, but I didn't want to push it. I had no idea if they had cameras in the house or not. So they left, and quickly after I started getting myself ready to lay down.
That's wow. That's room.
At some point, I
Wow.
got a text back from Ben, apologizing for taking so long, and then asking what cleaning lady, with 2 question marks and an exclamation point. I typed back, Eliza, the Hispanic woman who came by and claimed she was the cleaning lady. That's when Ben called me with a concerned voice. He got more details from me after telling me there was no cleaning lady. That was the whole reason they hired me. I felt like I had been taken for a fool. More
Uh,
importantly, I was terrified that I may not have been in that house alone at that very moment.
what the?
Ben told me to just hide in a bedroom and that he'd call the police for me. So we hung up, and I waited in the room for the police to arrive. I had Ben on FaceTime when the police arrived, so he could also talk to them. We all looked through the house together, from top to bottom, and we didn't see anyone. I told Ben the lady said she had a spare key, but he said he was confident that that was a lie, because they never made any spare keys.
What? The?
He was confident she simply snuck in when I was in the pool or outside in general. After we were sure there was no one in the house, the police left, but they made sure I locked all the doors and windows before they did so. I spoke with Ben a little longer, who was very comforting, and asked I just hold down the fort and call the police if anything else should happen. We hung up, and I went to bed.
I'll
I locked the
be
door, of course.
forget
Left the air
this.
conditioning off so
I'll
I
be
could
the
hear any potential noises from outside.
booking the after us.
As I lay awake, subconsciously waiting for a noise, I heard one from under the bed.
What?
It sounded like a squeak on the wood floor. I hopped out of the bed and looked under it. There were 2 people hiding underneath. One was the lady from earlier, Eliza. The other was some man probably 10 years older than her, with his hand over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and I ran for the door. The moment that it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable with. As I did, I heard them crawling out from the bed.
What the?
I ran outside to my car without my shoes and drove down the street, where I called the police, and then I called Ben again. I waited for police cars to pass, and then I followed them. Once again, searched the whole house and found no one. This time I didn't stick around for the night. Ben told me to go home and stay safe. The family booked a flight back home the next day, cutting their vacation short. The intruders were never identified. All that can be speculated is they walked in through the front door while I was in the pool because I didn't lock the door, and that they somehow knew the family would be gone. No further info is known.
What the? That's spooky. There were 302 missing order service by Miso Namo. The link to the video will be in the description below. Go and check it out. And drop a like if you like. And comment down below if you want to see more Miso Namo reactions. subscribe if you're new. Click the bell so you'll be notified when I upload in a month. Bye.